I'm Summer Curley. Welcome to the Community Forum this evening. I'm going to be sharing a bit with you tonight about the flow of our session. But before we get into that, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Harmon to get us kicked off.
Thank you so much, Summer. Welcome, everyone. Thank you to the community for attending the Community Forum tonight, and for the staff for all the hard work that's gone on behind the scenes putting this event together tonight. And we're crossing our fingers that the technology works. So thanks for everyone that's working on that piece as well. Also want to thank all the commissioners from the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission for attending as well. And I'd like to start by reading the council's vision statement, which is: the city of San Luis Obispo is a dynamic community embracing its future while respecting its past, with the core values of civility, sustainability, diversity, inclusivity, regionalism, partnership, and resiliency. And I also want to acknowledge that we are meeting on the unceded lands of the Northern Chumash tribes. Public engagement is the cornerstone for developing the city's 2-year financial plan, and input received at the Community Forum is an important part of that engagement. It provides community members an opportunity to directly engage with the council, the REOC, and staff on the top priorities the city should focus on over the next 2 years. Our community is certainly facing a number of social, environmental, and economic challenges, but we have shown time and time again that our community is strong, adaptive, and resilient. The Community Forum is an example of that adaptability, and though we wish we could be in person, exchanging ideas and ways to make our community better, we are committed to providing you an equal and meaningful opportunity to inform the council and the REOC on what your top priorities are. Overcoming the challenges we face as a community will require partnerships at a level that we have never seen before. But I'm confident that all of us will continue to work together, as we always have, to come through this difficult time a stronger San Luis Obispo. Your input tonight is not the end of the public engagement process, and there will be a number of opportunities as we develop and finally adopt the financial plan in June. And I was just reflecting back myself on how years ago I reached out to the city to see if I could help implement the climate action plan. The answer then was no, thank you. But I was planting seeds then with the city and within the community at large that would many years later become a city where we have one of the most ambitious carbon neutrality goals in the United States. So this process is valuable regardless of whether or not the goal that you're hoping for is adopted this year or not. Your ideas and your values and your solutions are wanted and valuable. And we are planting the seeds for the future San Luis Obispo that you want most. And so tonight gives us a chance also to reconnect, which I think is something that we're all really desperately missing very much right now. And so again, thank you to everyone for attending tonight's Community Forum and for making your voices heard. And now I'd like to hand it over to Miguel Godardo, our IT manager, to explain a little bit about the technology tonight. Miguel?
Buenas noches y bienvenidos, miembros de la comunidad. Esta noche tenemos varias formas para que usted participe, incluyendo la votación en vivo a través de Poll Everywhere, estaciones separadas para dar aportes y hacer preguntas, y una estación bilingüe para hispanohablantes. La presentación de esta noche también está disponible en español y se puede encontrar en el chat. Todas las aportaciones de esta noche se incluirán en una encuesta de foro de la comunidad en línea que estará disponible en varios idiomas y en el sitio web de la alcaldía de la ciudad. Muchas gracias por su participación. Ahora me gustaría presentarles a nuestro administrador municipal, Derek Johnson. Thank you all again for attending this evening, and now I would like to introduce our city manager, Derek Johnson.
Great, thanks Miguel, and thanks Madam Mayor. I am really happy to be here tonight, and we're going to bring up a couple slides just in a minute. And I just want to thank, of course, the community. I wish certainly that we could see you all in person. I miss you all as I look through and scroll through all the names that have joined us tonight. I'm just really heartened by all of you spending the time with us. Of course, the process that we're embarking on tonight has been something that we've never done before virtually. We have done our best to try to replicate the process that many of you are familiar with. that really is the way that we engage in direct democracy, where we have the community come forward and tell us what their hopes and dreams are for the next couple of years. And then we try to then turn those into reality. And I think what that has done over the last 20 plus years is made a community that reflects really the hopes and desires of our community and the priorities. I'm going to bring us a little bit on a journey tonight of where we've been and where we are going to be going as a community. I do want to say that during this time, I just want to acknowledge that our community is undergoing a tremendous amount of stress. We are seeing economic stress, financial stress. We have businesses that have been closed. And right now we have spiking number of COVID cases and deaths in our community. There is hope on the horizon, but this remains a marathon and not a sprint. Back in March of this year, when the council declared a local emergency, one of the areas that I emphasized to the council was that we were going to need the grace of the community. We were going to need the grace of everyone in our region to try new things, to be innovative, to be adaptive. And I think we've done that in spades over the last 10 months. The hope that I talk about as we look forward to the 21 to 23 financial plan is that we do have vaccines. In fact, this next Monday, we'll be beginning to open up our public points of distribution, both in Paso Robles and here in San Luis Obispo, to start the vaccination of those individuals over 75. We've been, of course, vaccinating our first responders in our medical community and others that are essential to making sure that our community stays healthy. And we look forward to serving that community over the upcoming months. The good news is that your city took immediate financial action when the pandemic hit last year, and the council in its wisdom set aside nearly $6 million to augment the one-time reserves so that we were nimble and flexible and could do things that we've never done before, like installing parklets, providing business grants, by supporting businesses in re-tenanting, to partnering with the SLO County Foundation to help our nonprofit community. It has been the organizational focus on economic recovery, resiliency, and public health, and that will need to continue. We're not through the woods just yet, and our focus will need to be on making sure that our community stays healthy and is positioned to rebound from this pandemic. We have been fortunate along the way to have community support, and I am just so thrilled that the voters took the step in November to support Measure G20. It will help our community not only recover from this pandemic, but also deal with the hopes and dreams that we have, whether it's building infrastructure, securing more open space, providing programs, addressing homelessness, supporting economic recovery and resiliency. The support from the voters help make that happen. And lastly, we enjoy strong partnerships. We have strong partnership with the County of San Luis Obispo, the other 6 cities in our regions, the faith community, the business community, and neighborhoods. And we're going to need everyone's support, because what I know is that when San Luis remains united, we can do really great things. And I expect that we'll do that together now. So as we move to the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit of the journey that we've been on. And so we've been conquering the COVID-19 mountain. And you can think of this as Cerro San Luis, but I've been thinking this more like Mount Kilimanjaro, with jungles and temperate forest and deserts. And as we get towards the top, perhaps a little ice and snow. But back in February, we began working on monitoring COVID. And then on March 18th, the council declared a local emergency. We followed up with that by Governor Newsom declaring a stay-at-home order. And then right around then, we knew we had to come to the support of the community and public health, particularly restaurants and cafes and businesses, and which businesses were open. We reimagined our recreation programs in a short amount of time. Next slide. And then in April, the county continued its executive order for shelter at home. The city council, in response to concerns about what was happening in and around the city, extended the emergency safety enhancement zone so that we could take immediate action for activities that were happening that were unfortunately spreading COVID-19. We had our first death in April of 2020. And at the same time, we also began to think about what does economic recovery and resiliency look like in San Luis Obispo? And we did things like creating a slow virtual shopping map. Next slide. And as we continued this journey, we worked with our county partners on free COVID-19 testing. We helped businesses reopen with modifications. The state worked with us on our resilience roadmap. And then we immediately started planning for parklets, the utilization of private parking lots, and downtown circulation plans to reimagine how we needed to do business differently in the short term to make sure we had a fighting chance to do everything we can to keep our community resilient and thriving. Next slide. And then in June, we had our first open slow activities in Mission Plaza. You saw Mission Plaza activated. We reimagined Monterey and Higuera streets. We had additional pop-up testing sites throughout the county. And then we had new areas that we had to communicate on, particularly around new guidance, including the first face mask requirements. Next slide. And as we continue to go up this mountain, on July 1st, the council had to take some immediate action. We had to close some bars over the 4th of July weekend and limit occupancy. We continued our huge public media campaign, and today we enjoy tens of thousands of imprints on the community about information that you need to help save lives and minimize the spread and know about what's happening in our community with businesses. We started our Picnic in the Plaza campaign. We provided free parking in downtown garages. We installed over 45 parklets in the downtown. And then we worked with the county and trying to reinstate a safe parking program. Next slide. And then in August, we knew that many people needed physical health and activity. And we began a slow wellness map for gyms and other types of fitness to operate in our parks. We launched our first round of business relief fund. And we also took care of more immediate action, like adopting the climate action plan for community recovery. And at about that time, the governor switched gears again, and we heard from him the blueprint for a safer economy, which really set out the purple, red, orange, and yellow tiers that many of us are familiar with. And then as we continue to move forward into September, we go to the next slide. We developed the Tip Fast program, which was to help us process permits to help businesses recover. The county expanded its COVID testing to Paso Robles and Morro Bay. And then as we go to the next slide and we hit November, we had our October, our virtual public Halloween decorating contest. We started to see some cases increase. The county is slow. We were moving towards the orange tier. We were still at the purple tier, but unfortunately our hopes got dashed as we started to see a spike. We saw some modified in-person operations in K through 12, and certainly that started to give us a glimmer of hope. And then we hit November of 2020, and we continue to put out information about slowing the spread. We reached 5,000 cases, and unfortunately, California hit 1 million cases. And then we slipped back into the purple tier. We saw the full mask mandate from the state being updated. We had a limited stay-at-home order, and we knew we needed to respond to give some hope to our community. And we worked with our partners in downtown SLO with lighting it up. And we unveiled that over the holiday season. And then we hit the December timeframe. The stay-at-home order remained in effect. We knew because of the gripping impacts that it was going to have on our business community, the council took $3.4 million of new Measure G money and allocated for economic recovery and homeless services, something we've never done before. We implemented programs like our Buy Local program. We continued our grant program, which we have in the process right now. And we heard the great news that Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were on the way. And we also launched new media campaigns like the Help Us Help You. And as you know, many of us today, that regional stay-at-home order continues and extended. And so what did we hit in January of 2021? We have this city's second round of $500,000 for our SLO City Small Business Relief Fund, and vaccine information continues to come through. And as of January 8th, we had over 8,000 SLO County residents that have been vaccinated. So where do we go from here as we think about this analogy of conquering the COVID mountain? And if you could go to the next slide. While the ascent of the mountain is certainly difficult, and we are not at the top just yet, sometimes the descent can be just as hard, if not harder. We are going to need to maintain our vigilance, continue our best practices, and support our community. And I look forward to that support and from all of the council and the communities we move forward. And thank you for the opportunity to cover the journey that we've been on over the last 10 months. And with that, Summer, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. I'm going to actually turn it over to Brigitte to take us into the next segment.
Thank you very much, Summer, and a very good evening to everybody joining us tonight. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. While the city uses surveys, advisory body input, and community organization statements for feedback, the community forum has always been the high point of the public input efforts, as it is a time when our residents come together to discuss their hopes and wishes for the community. The forum is therefore an important part of the council's goal-setting process and offers the opportunity to build upon and add to the results that we have already received. The other important component of the forum is that it also offers more focused feedback on the use of the voter-approved local sales tax measure, and the oversight committee members join us tonight to receive your input directly. Those of you who have previously attended the forum probably remember the dot exercise that usually happens at the end of the event. While due to the current virtual format, we won't be able to have the dot voting tonight, it will be possible. It will actually be available through an online dot survey. Each respondent will have 10 dots available and will be able to place them next to the ideas, issues, and suggestions that are most important to them. It's almost the same format as we have in the physical forum. This opportunity will be open for 10 days after this evening and allow for additional community participation and additional feedback to the council and the local sales tax oversight committee. Let's go to the next slide. You will see that tonight's forum offers 8 different input stations. To assign the topics, we use the feedback that we have thus far received from the community survey that was open at the end of last year in November and December. The top 8 interest areas are now assigned to these topic rooms, but we also have an other station to make sure we capture any other topics that community members would like to address. As you can see highlighted here, homelessness, economic stability and resiliency, climate action, diversity, equity, and inclusion, housing, open space, downtown vitality, and infrastructure maintenance ended in the top 8 spots. In order to now provide, before we go into these sessions, the participants a bit of context, the next slide provides some economic information. The current economic situation is probably unlike anything we have ever experienced. It has sped up the upcoming trends and has affected industries in vastly different ways. So where we are with our thinking? The word uncertainty might be one of the most used words, especially in my case, most certainly in this context. But here we are, 10 months into this health emergency, and we are still faced with very much unknowns. Thankfully, the city entered the pandemic with strong fiscal policies, and the immediate activation of its fiscal health contingency plan assisted it greatly in confronting the ramifications of the pandemic. We have to consider that not all sectors were impacted and not all industry experienced the pandemic the same. And the partial opening together with creative solutions that were applied, such as the parklet dining, so spending returned relatively quickly once we were able to at least partially open. As unknowns remain, your city government entered the current fiscal year with a balanced budget and made conservative assumptions that surface well as we continue to struggle through the current pandemic and the surge of cases. So let's take a little bit closer look in the next slide. Like so often in life, there are always positives and negatives. And on the upside, what we see is that, again, there was a relatively quick bounce back in spending that is also aided by the federal stimulus and the extension of unemployment benefits. The city is a drive-to destination. We anticipate that international travel will be muted probably for another year or even longer. But given that we're easy to reach by car, will probably help tourism snap back relatively quickly. We have seen a tremendous increase in online shopping that has actually made up some of the losses in the brick and mortar retail sales tax. We live in a very low interest rate environment, and that has aided the strong real estate market. And really, we've seen throughout the pandemic a very high construction activity. On the downside, so as mentioned, there are industries that are very heavily impacted by the closures, restaurants and hotels especially. The online shopping is a trend that we have seen come on, but most certainly the pandemic has now increased that change very rapidly, and that hurts the local businesses and the brick and mortar retail stores that are often the base of a vibrant community. 70% of the city sales tax comes from visitors and daytime commuters. So as long as we cannot open our city back up to those folks, we will probably continue to see revenue shortfalls. Again, stimulus funded spending, that can be a plus and can be a minus. And we've seen additional waves now coming on with the current shutdown, and hopefully the vaccines will stop further from happening. There is no question that this pandemic will probably continue to shape the future of businesses and consumer behavior alike. Technology advances and workplace changes are likely here to stay. The future of economic development will lie with attracting and retaining talent, making sure we can supply affordable housing, and be creative with the adaptive reuse of commercial spaces. Turning retail districts into destinations to create that sense of community and relaxation will help further drive the return of people to congregate in our downtowns and town centers. San Luis Obispo is really well positioned to offer all of these elements with targeted investments to welcome visitors, commuters, and residents with a rich experience to complement our brick and mortar stores. And with that short recap, I'll turn it back to Summer for the continuation and more instructions as we go into the breakout sessions.
Thank you, Brigitte. We are 1 minute ahead of schedule. Look at that. So I'm Summer Curley. I'm the CEO for the Center for Organization Effectiveness. And I have the privilege this evening to walk you through our virtual community forum input element of the evening. I have talked to several community members and council members and staff, and everybody, as they recount how the annual community forum plays out, they all recount it with really fond memories and really a happy time to get to see their fellow community members and engage in really active dialogue about what's working and what you all would like to see improved in this amazing community that you live and work in. And when we were faced with the challenge of how do you do this if people can't be in person at this time, we have, I think, come up with a really good path to give you multiple avenues to share your input this evening. I'm going to be walking you through what those look like, and we'll give hopefully very detailed but simple instructions for how you'll be able to access all the different opportunities for input. We're going to have an opportunity to share via some polling here today, and I'll walk you through how that's going to work. At any point, though, if you have a thought you'd like to share, some feedback, please feel free to use the chat box. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. And we also are going to have an opportunity for you to go into some breakout rooms. So you'll be able to, on specific topics, go into sessions. City staff will be there to greet you and to engage in dialogue with you on that specific topic. And then we'll have another polling opportunity as well as public comment here tonight. So you have several avenues in order to engage with us this evening, as well as following the session. As was mentioned, there will be a similar dot voting that you normally would have done in person, but this will be done after the session. We'll share all of that link information with you as we get through the session here this evening. I really want to applaud and echo what some other people have mentioned, although everyone that's mentioned it so far is somebody that is part of the city of SLO. As somebody who works with cities and counties across the state of California, what you all are doing here tonight and participating in is something very unique and innovative, that you're getting the opportunity to still engage with your city staff and your community members and your council members and the REOC team in order to really have an active conversation about what you'd like to see moving into the next 2 years. So we're going to get started by, I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of the ins and outs, some of the basics of Zoom. We know for many of you over the course of the last 10 to 11 months or so, you've probably been engaging in FaceTime, maybe Microsoft Teams, maybe Zoom, but we know that everyone has a preferred platform. And if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, we don't want any of the technology to stand in the way of you being able to participate this evening. So I'm going to give you walk you through some screenshots here that will show you the kind of different buttons you have at your disposal there. This is just a sample. What you're seeing on the screen is a sample of a session. Please know that everybody's Zoom might look a little different depending on what version you're utilizing, but that dashboard at the bottom of your screen is what is going to give you the most of the bells and whistles that you're going to want to use. When it comes time for you to be unmuting yourself, when you have you're queued up, you'll actually be welcomed to unmute yourself. You'll be able to click on the button. That's where the mute goes. You'll be able to see that. You want to start and stop your video. Many of you already are doing that. That's how you're going to click on that start stop video segment. If you'd like to see who is in the session with you tonight, you can click on that participant button and it's going to pull up everyone that's here. And you actually can be direct messaging individuals or sharing comments with the entire group that's here. In order to, what that'll look like when you click on that participant panel is another window will open that'll show you the list of participants and their name, exactly how they've listed it. For some of you, depending on your Zoom version that you have, you're gonna see where that yellow box is, you're gonna see some options for how you can raise your hand specifically is what we want to pay attention to there. And I'll tell you why that's going to be important here in just a minute. Raising that hand. When you do that, you see the hand came up on that top person's name profile there. So that tells us that you have a question or comment that you'd like to make. The other thing to click on, know that's there in your dashboards, is the chat function. If you click on that chat function, it's going to pull up a window. And you'll see that there's already been a lot of people communicating, asking questions, putting comments, giving accolades to the city for proceeding this evening. And so you'll see that chat option. We encourage you to have that open because that'll be a place where you can share additional input throughout the evening and into your breakout rooms as well. That's what it'll look like. Once you hit that chat button, you're going to see a second window come up. You can see that on the right-hand bottom side. That's the Zoom group chat. You'll be able to click on that. If you want to send a message to anybody, you just click on that little caret button that says everyone, and you can select who you want to send a message to, everybody, or you can pick an individual. And then the final thing I would like to, actually there's a couple final things I'd point out. For some of you, you'll have this reactions button, and when you click in there, it's going to give you some additional options. So at any point, if you want to give somebody a thumbs up because they said something great, or they, you loved what they said, you could give them a heart as an example. You can clap for them. But I want to point out there's also that button, raise hand. So again, for some of you, that's where you're going to find the opportunity to raise your hand is in that reactions button. One other view to pay attention to in that top right-hand corner, you'll see something that says speaker view. If you click on there, it's going to give you an option if you want to look at the speaker view or a gallery view. Speaker view is going to have whoever's talking, in this case me, will be larger on your screen and the rest of the boxes will be much smaller. If you prefer to have them all equal, you can click on that gallery view. So I encourage you to kind of play around with that this evening. One last thing before I advance to this. If you are interested in changing your name, if when you logged in, it gave you kind of an automatic name from something else you've been in and you'd like to relabel your name, you can go ahead and just click on your image. And when you click on your image or hover over your image, you'll see three little, like an ellipsis, three little dots that come up. If you click on that, you should be able to select rename, and it'll invite you to bring up a little text box that you can plug your name in there. So feel free to do that if you would like to change your name at any point. And in the chat box, we've posted some instructions on that as well, if you have any questions there. So let's go ahead and give this a go, because we will be doing the raising hand function quite a lot this evening. And we want to make sure that you really know how to utilize that piece. So I'm going to ask you a couple really easy questions. And when I ask the question, or if I give the instruction, if this applies to you, we want you to raise your virtual hand so you can get a feel for how you do this. So raise your virtual hand if this is your very first Zoom meeting. This is your very first Zoom meeting ever. Go ahead and raise that virtual hand. Derek, that's funny. All right, welcome, welcome. You're already doing awesome. The fact that you know how to raise your virtual hand in your first Zoom meeting is impressive. Way to go. And then you can just go to the same place you did to lower your hand. You want to lower your hand. And if you can't find that, someone on the center team will help you with that as well. Oh, good. We have some more people. It's their first time out. Awesome. Okay, so you click on that again, you'll be able to lower your hand. All right, next item. Raise your virtual hand if you spend multiple hours a day on Zoom or another platform like Microsoft Teams. Oh boy, there we go. There's a lot of people raising their hands. All right, so we got some very familiar people with this. All right, good, good, good. The Zoom fatigue is real. Okay, great. So you all are experts. A lot of you know exactly how to do this. This is fantastic. We're going to have no problems here tonight. So how this will work is in the breakout rooms, and then also towards the end of the meeting when we do public comment, this is how we'll know and we'll queue you up to speak. So when you get into your breakout room, or when it comes time to towards the end of the meeting for public comment, if you would like to be in the queue to speak, you will be able to raise your hand and you will actually be queued up, and the staff will be able to see the order in which you are queued up, and will be able to then call on you in order to go ahead and let you speak. I understand that maybe we have a question. Mayor, did you have a question? Oh, we'll ask you to unmute.
Thank you so much, Summer. I just wanted to clarify, and I wasn't finding Christine in the chat with the city attorney, that there's a lot of conversations going on. People are saying hi to me. I'm saying hi to them. I just wanted to clarify that this is not a Brown Act problem, especially for those of us that are elected. Or maybe you already know that, Summer. I was just going to clarify with the city attorney.
That's a good question. Christine, would you like to comment on that?
I think that's generally considered a problem, but.
Julie, can you unmute Christine Dietrich?
Don't see her.
I didn't see her in the chat.
No, she's not online.
Oh, okay.
It's not a problem, Mayor. This is all being recorded, and it's public, so it's fine.
Okay, so all the messages are recorded, just so people know. Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. Just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, good question. So everybody knows this is being recorded. It is being live broadcast, And the Zoom rooms, as you're going to go into breakout rooms, those will also be recorded. They will not be live broadcast, of course, but they will be recorded, and all of this will be posted after the meeting, so people can watch back what they'd like to see. There is a question for the raise hand, so you should be able to either find that in your reactions button towards the bottom, or when you click into the participant panel, if you click participants, you should see a raise hand option there. It's in different places depending on your version of Zoom. Derek, did you want to make a comment about the Brown Act piece?
Yeah, I was just going to just amplify on Ms. Parrington's comments. And yeah, you can certainly chat with your elected members. What that would restrict is the council members chatting amongst themselves, and so we couldn't do that. So just to clarify, certainly you can communicate to any of the 5 council members that join us tonight, but they should limit chats amongst themselves.
Thank you. All right, so the other piece that we'll be using this evening is Poll Everywhere. We'll be doing some polling through a platform that is called Poll Everywhere. It is extremely secure, so your feedback that you'll be sharing as we post these polls will go into a spreadsheet that the center, my organization, will be downloading, and that is what will be made accessible to the city in order to post onto Open City Hall, so that you'll all be able to then vote according to the input that is received. So that information that we'll be gathering through the polls, as well as through the chat box, through both this main room that we're in, chat function, as well as when you go out into your breakout rooms, the chat that is in those breakout rooms. So that all of that information will be taken into account in order to gather that up for the dot voting that will happen. Once we do this polling piece, we then will break you into give you the opportunity to break out into the topic rooms, the breakout rooms. Feel free, you can pop into multiple rooms, you can stay in one to listen to the discussion, you can pop into one, and when you're finished, you can come back and join us here in this main room at 8:15. We'll be back here to do one last poll to gather any additional input, and then public comment and wrap up. So feel free, we'll give you a link so you can see how you can get in and out of the different topic rooms, but please do feel free to join more than one. We ask that as always would be standard, in any of these, the polls, your responses to the polls, or in the breakout rooms, that of course you keep the conversation civil, and you hopefully choose the topic room, the Zoom breakout room that you want to go to that is on a topic you'd like to discuss, so that we can have thorough conversation in that room on that topic, so we can stay on topic there. There will, of course, be public comment at the end, so you have another opportunity to, we can be sure that everyone's voice is being heard. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our polling element here. I want to make a couple comments about that specifically. You will only be able to respond to each poll one time. So be thoughtful about the response that you want to put in. You can always, you'll see a note once you submit your response. If you want to undo it and submit something different, you can kind of change your mind and put something else in, but you will have one response per person. We're going to put up each poll, and you're going to have about 60 seconds or so to respond to those. And then I will give you a cue. Hey, we're going to be closing this one up. So go ahead and put your final response in and push that submit so we can capture all of it. Just want to give you a really, because we have so many people on the line, it's possible there could be a lag in the responses populating. You're going to see the responses coming up on the screen. And if there is a lag, don't worry about that. We will be capturing all the data will be captured on the back end. So all your input's going to be put in there, even if you don't see your exact wording coming up on the screen. So I just want to reassure you on that. And if for any reason any of this is not working for you, if you can't get the polling to work, you can always put that information in the chat box. We'll be happy we'll capture that information and move it forward. Before we get into the polls, I just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to make sure that they have signed up for eCity News. This is the way that we will be keeping you up to speed on what's coming. when the Dotocracy is available. And so you'll be able to have that information accessible. So if you click on that link, we actually just put the link, the more specific link, in the chat. And you can click on that now and do this, or feel free to do this at another time. You're going to want to click in there, put in your contact information, click on City News, put in that code, and hit submit, and then we'll have your information. Okay, so just want to get this up on the screen so we can launch into our polls. Everybody that's watching on YouTube can also participate in these polls. You do not have to be logged into Zoom to be participating. Please remember, you will have one response. So there's a couple ways you can participate. You can either open an internet browser like Chrome, Internet Explorer, something like that. And you can, if you open that browser, you're going to put in pollev, POLLEV.com. And when it asks for the ID information, you're going to type in Sunny Hero 577. You should see that up on the screen, Sunny Hero 577. We also have a link in the chat box if that's easier for you to just click on that. If you prefer to respond via phone, via text, you can text to the number 22333. And when you put that up, that's the phone number you're texting to. You're going to type into the text box Sunny Hero 577. That should welcome you to the session here. Make sure everyone is in there, you have access to this information, and then we'll get started with our first poll. If at any point you're having a challenge with this, please feel free to put your information in the chat box in the Zoom room. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to get started here. This is a great spot. If you're in, you can give me a thumbs up with your virtual reactions there too, or a real one like that. That works for me too. So we know we're set to jet here. Awesome. Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to launch into our first poll here. A bunch of you have already started responding. So we'd love you to share a word that represents what you love about living or working in the city of San Luis Obispo. The translation in Spanish is also listed there. You can see that as people are putting their information in, this is what we call a word cloud. As more people put in the same word, that word becomes larger and more bold. So community, outdoors, nature, sunshine are very popular words. I love that people got creative with some of those emojis in there. It's fantastic. Again, if you are having any challenges, feel free to put your comments in the chat box. This one is just kind of a fun one to get everyone started. Make sure you're able to access the polling. Okay, I'm going to give you about 20 more seconds to get your answers in there. Again, you may not see your exact wording coming up on the screen, but it is capturing it if it doesn't quite get in before we move on to the next poll. All right, last chance to hit your submit. Okay, I'm going to move to our next poll. All right, here we go. So this next poll is related to the same 8 focus areas that many of you responded to in the pre-survey. And we'd love for you to click on which of these 8 focus areas, which one of the 8 focus areas are your top priorities for the city over the next 2 years. So which one of the 8 focus areas is the top priority in your mind for the city over the next 2 years? Great, we see those answers coming in. Economic stability is coming up pretty high along with climate action. You can see the donut chart is adjusting as more people respond. Again, if you're having any challenges with this, please do feel free to be responding in the chat box. We'll be tracking the comments as they come in and incorporating that into the information. Right, great. We're seeing economic stability, climate action are getting the highest ones, homelessness, DE&I efforts, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you, excellent. People are putting into the chat box their answers, that's great. Looks like there's a question, DE&I stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We apologize there. It was not spelled out. It wouldn't quite fit on this poll, but it will be spelled out on some other spots. Thank you for the question. All right, we'll leave this open for 5 more seconds. Make sure you submit your answer if you haven't yet. All right, we're going to move to the next poll. All right. So the next poll here, what ideas do you have to help address homelessness in the city of San Luis Obispo? So we'd like to hear your ideas of how the city of San Luis Obispo might help address the challenges of homelessness that you're experiencing. Homes is a great answer. Yes, we need more of that. Feel free to put those in. You'll see the answers coming up on the screen as people put those in live. This is different than that first word cloud. This actually is showing verbatim people's responses. You can see that coming up. Again, please know that if you don't, as these are coming in, as more and more come in, it might be a little bit slower. So if you don't see your exact wording, please know that it is it's coming into the back end spreadsheet that's being captured. Excellent. Several comments on mental health. Great. Thank you. So the format we're going to use on each of those 8 topic areas, we're going to ask a very similar, the same kind of question we're asking here, so we can capture your ideas and your thoughts for each of those key topic areas. So if your main topic area you're concerned about isn't come up, please wait, it will as we get through this. Okay. Great, there's some specific stuff coming up here. I'll give you about 10 more seconds to put in those answers. So make sure you hit submit before we move on so we get that question put in or your response put in there. Excellent. All right, we're going to move to the next question. All right, here we go. Our next question, what ideas do you have to help address economic stability, recovery, and resiliency in the city of San Luis Obispo? Again, similar kind of question, but specific to ideas you have related to economic stability, recovery, resiliency. Again, if you're having any challenges, please feel free to put those answers in the chat box. Looks like there's a few of you that are using that. That's fantastic. That's exactly what we want to see. Again, if you don't see that exact wording, as long as you hit submit, we are receiving the answer. Great, thank you. Okay, lots of answers coming in on this one. Worker cooperatives, head of household jobs, great, thank you. Renewable energy resources, great. Better transit. Okay, we'll give you about 10 more seconds to get those final answers in. Make sure you hit submit. Great. As you can see, even somewhat long answers will come in. So if you do have something specific you want to suggest in there, please do. All right, we're going to move to the next poll. Okay, so our next question is around ideas that you have to help address climate concerns. Ideas to help address the climate concerns. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for the good answers coming in here. We'll get those. They're coming in on the chat box as well. If you're curious, you can obviously see the answers on your screen, but if you're also curious what's coming in the chat box, please look there. And if you can lower your hand, if you don't have an immediate question, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Great. All right, we'll keep this open for 10 more seconds. Excellent. All right, hit that submit. We're going to move on to the next poll. All right, our next one is about ideas you have to help support diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DE&I, in the city of San Luis Obispo. So any ideas you have to help support DE&I in the city of San Luis Obispo, please share those here. Again, putting those in the chat box works great as well. We will have an open question. So some of you who may have asked at the beginning when we did the donut chart, if there was something that you were more curious about that wasn't on that list, we will have an open question that is for other topics you think should be considered, other options. So please know that's coming. Again, that chat box is open if you have thoughts you want to share in there. Great, thank you. All right. For those of you that may feel it's a little repetitious, make sure that you're responding in the items, the polls that are specific to items you have ideas and thoughts about, please. Excellent. All right, 10 more seconds on this one, and we'll move on. There will be these topic areas that we're asking about in the polls. These will be the breakout sessions that you have the opportunity to go to here in just a little bit. Okay, we're going to move to the next poll here. Hit that submit button. All right, here we go. Our next question is, what ideas do you have to help address housing in the city of San Luis Obispo? Ideas you have to address housing in the city of San Luis Obispo. I'm guessing that job training centers might have been on the last poll. We'll shift that one over there. Might have just snuck in just in the internet. It got through there. All right, so ideas you have to help address housing in the city of San Luis Obispo. Excellent. Please feel free to put your answers in the chat box as well. Yeah, for anyone that has come in later or didn't get the information about how to get into the polls, it was just reposted in the chat, so you can click on that link or put in text 22333 and type in Sunny Hero 577, and you'll have access to the polling. All right, we'll give this 10 more seconds. Make sure you hit submit. Fantastic, those answers coming in, great. All right, we're gonna go to our next question here. The next question, what ideas do you have to help address open space concerns in the city of San Luis Obispo? So go ahead and put those answers in. Those will start coming in a second, and we'll put those in the chat box as well. Okay. Thank you for the specifics here. Ideas around open space. Great. Okay. About 20 more seconds on this one. You can see some of the ideas from your fellow community members in regards to open space. Great. Thank you. And it looks like we have some specific things coming into the chat box as well for those of you who want to be tracking some of those comments also. You can get a feel of that. Great. Okay, we're going to move 5 more seconds here. We're going to move into our next poll. Be sure to hit that submit so we get them all in. Thank you. All right, the next question should be coming up here on your screen. What ideas do you have to help support downtown vitality in the city of San Luis Obispo? We talked a bit about this in the opening of the meeting here. So ideas for downtown vitality. Okay. You will, as I had mentioned, you will have an opportunity as you get into the breakout rooms on the topics you want to, the topic rooms you want to visit. You'll have an opportunity to both be heard by queuing up, getting your virtual hand raised, and be able to be heard that way, as well as sharing more in the chat box specific to that topic. So please do utilize that. All right. 10 more seconds here. All right, be sure you hit that submit button so we can get your answer in. Okay. Our next question is around what ideas do you have to help address infrastructure maintenance in the city of San Luis Obispo? Ideas specific to infrastructure maintenance, concerns there. Again, we have the question in the chat box, so if that's easier for you to see it and put your responses there, please do. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Great input. All right. 10 more seconds here. Again, the information about how to access the polling function, if you got, for some reason you weren't able to access it earlier, you just joined us, is the information's in the chat. So please either text the code in or click on that link. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Be sure to hit submit or push enter. It might be enter on your system. Okay, so this is the question about other priorities. What other priorities do you want the City Council to consider for the next 2 years? So maybe you didn't see something that you're concerned about, or you have input to provide in one of these other polls or in the pre-survey that was sent out. This is your opportunity to share your other priorities that you'd like to share with the City Council. Okay. All right, we will have a other breakout room as well, topic room. So if you want to go to that room and have an opportunity to talk about some of these other dynamics, please do. If one of the topics that are available don't resonate with what you want to chat about, please do feel free to join that. 10 more seconds here. Great, we're getting some people commenting in the chat box as well, if you want to keep an eye on that, as well as the screen as things are populating as we're speaking. Okay, we're going to move on to the next piece. Okay, so many of you, I'm sure you likely recall that the local sales tax measure that was approved by voters in November, this screen shows the condensed verbiage from that that was on the ballot in both English on the left and Spanish on the right. Love you to just take a minute to read that and kind of refresh your memory of what was in that local revenue measure or the local sales tax measure. Before we go to the poll, we're going to ask you a question in just a second here as you're looking at this. I encourage you to share your thoughts on what types of services and projects you think the city should focus on. We'll give you a second to read that, and then we'll move to the poll. Okay, so here is the poll question. What types of services and projects should the city focus on over the next 2 years to address its priorities? And again, please feel free to put your comments in there or put your comments in the chat box. Excellent. Great. All right, if any city staff is still in here that is going to be hosting a Zoom room, you want to hop out now and make sure you're there. We're going to be moving over to those in just a few minutes. Again, if you have any comments that you can't get into the poll and you want to put those in the chat box, please do. Excellent. Okay, we're going to give this about 5 more seconds. Be sure to hit that submit. Okay. Thank you for all of that input. So we are going to be coming back after the breakout rooms. We're going to shift here in just a minute to the breakout rooms. And we will be coming back after that and doing one more poll to capture any additional ideas, concerns, information that you have identified based upon the conversations you have in the breakout rooms. So if you've been using a browser, you might want to leave that browser open so you don't have to log back in. If you've been texting, you can just, when we come back, you'll be able to text in your answers. And again, anybody can use the chat box as well. I just want to provide a couple reminders. The breakout rooms will be being recorded. They will not be live broadcast, but those recordings will be provided afterwards and posted. When you go to a breakout room, up on the screen right now, you can see the topics for each of the rooms. And so you can choose which room you want to go to. When you get there, you will be greeted by city staff. When you first get into the room, they'll have a slide up and they'll be talking, just doing some quick reminders of how to participate in the room, both by using the chat box or again, by raising that virtual hand. Remember, you can find that virtual hand either in the participant panel or in your reactions button, depending on which version of Zoom you have. And you'll be able to participate that way, and then they'll invite you to unmute when it's your turn to speak. If you run out of time, we actually are right on time. The Zoom rooms are supposed to start at 7:05. So we'll have from 7:05 to 8:15. If you run out of time, please know that there is all of the information you put in the chat will be saved. When we come back and do one more poll, you'll also have an opportunity to put more input there, as well as we'll have public comment. So there will be more opportunities to share if for some reason your room runs out of time there. In the chat right now, we're going to be putting a link that is connects you to the breakout room. So how this will work is that you are going to be clicking on that link that we'll put in just a minute. It's going to take you back to the city's website. What you need to do is you actually have to leave this Zoom room to go to that breakout room on the specific topic. So we want you to take that link. That link will also be available in the breakout rooms when you get there. And you'll be able to click into which of the rooms you'd like to go to. So let's say you're going to leave this room and you're going to go to the city website and you'd like to go to the topic room on homelessness. So you're going to click on that homelessness link. You're going to be entered into a new Zoom room. That Zoom room, you can chat, you can raise your hand, you can put information in the chat box, you can listen to the discussion. And when you are satisfied with that conversation and now you, let's say, want to move to the downtown vitality room, you're going to go back to the main city website and you're going to click on that next topic room, okay, so that you can get into the next topic room. We'd ask, of course, like all night, as you've been doing awesome, that we keep the conversation civil and we make sure we give time for everyone to speak. Some of the rooms might be busier than others. And so do feel free if you want to jump out and go to a different room and come back, by all means, you can get to as many as you'd like. At 8:15, we will reconvene here. So again, you can get back to this room through the city's website, that same link. You'll come back to this room at 8:15. We'll do one more poll, and then we'll engage in some public comment and close out the evening. If for any reason you have any challenges, you can come back to this main room and myself and other members of the team will be here to help you navigate to get to the right spot. So we will see you back here at 8:15. Enjoy interacting with one another. Was I on mute for all of that? That's too bad. I just saved the world and you all missed it. My deepest apologies. I hope you all had, welcome back. I hope you all had really engaging conversations in your groups. And that's funny. You're all making good jokes in the chat room. I love it. You know, my team is never going to let me live that down. So thank you. Glad that happened. Anyway, thanks for being back here. As I was hearing from people as they came back into this main room and were sharing with us how it was going as they were getting ready to go into another room, it sounds like you had some very lively dialogue in the various topic breakout sessions. So happy to hear that. Happy you had a chance to see your neighbors, see your community members, and share a bit about what you're hoping for into the next couple years as a community. We do have an opportunity for one more poll here, and this poll is really to give another opportunity for you to highlight in case you've had new ideas kind of spur into your brain as you're engaging in dialogue with other community members. We want to give you another opportunity to share what some of those might be. These can be on any topic, anything that's been discussed, any of the priority areas, any of the other areas that have come up in your conversations. We want to give you another opportunity for that. And for those of you who are participating in the polling via text, you should be able to just go right back to that same text string. If you somehow deleted it, you can just dial in 22333 and you'll be able to type in Sunny Hero 577. Jenna, maybe you can put that info back in the chat. For those of you who were able to, were participating via your browser, you'll be able to click on that browser link that's in the chat box, and you'll be going to Poll Everywhere and be able to put that information in again. If you had your browser open, you should be able to just link right back in to the poll. So the last poll here that we'd like to have you engage in is just any additional thoughts you have or ideas to help address any of the focus areas that we've talked about this evening. In the previous polls, the breakout rooms, in the chat box, we want to give you another opportunity. We know sometimes after you've interacted with others, you might have hopefully had some new spurred thoughts. To go back to what Mayor Harmon was saying at the very beginning about planting seeds. Sometimes, one person plants a seed and it grows something else in someone else. So let's share those thoughts there. We have some ideas coming in. Love that. We need the community as co-creators. Absolutely. Great. We have some good ideas. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love that. Awesome. Well, that's an interesting idea. Possible to send the polls to schools to have young people engage in the process. It's an interesting idea. Yeah. Awesome. Again, if you're having any problems with the polling function, feel free to put that information in the chat box as well. We'll capture that also. All right, we'll give this another 15 seconds or so. Oh, a massive block party would be nice after the vaccination. I like that idea. Very nice. Okay, make sure you hit submit so we can get this closed out, capture all your ideas. As I said, even if you didn't see your specific wording come up here, it is capturing it on the back end as long as you hit submit before the time is up here. Excellent. Okay. So just a couple, before we go to that, just a couple things I wanted to share, just some reminders, and we'll go over these one more time. But Jen, if you can put those in the chat box as well. As I said at the beginning, that e-notification link that we were sharing, please do go onto the city website if you haven't already and sign up for that city news so that you'll get information about what's going on and when this information is posted so that you'll have access to the dot voting, that similar part to the dotocracy that you've done in previous in-person community forums. That'll now be done online after all this information is downloaded and collated, and we'll put that up on the website. Also, that'll be available tomorrow, and as Brigitte had said, for 10 days, that'll be open. So please do go there and visit it and encourage your community members, neighbors that weren't able to attend tonight to also be able to participate as well. I just want to thank you. I think I had said it, as I said at the very beginning, the City of San Luis Obispo is a unique organization and city. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different cities and organizations, and your community is one that is highly engaged. And when we were asked to help support this event that you were proceeding with doing a community forum in this virtual setting, we were so excited to get to be part of it. It speaks volumes to how much the city and your council and REOC really wants to hear from you all and engage you in this process. So thank you for taking time out of your evening to participate and to try on a new technology or to try a new forum with this technology. So thank you for participating. And we always are looking to get better. So we would love if you have feedback about how we could improve upon this or want to share how your experience was. If you can put that in the chat box, we really do take that into account, and certainly the city does as well, as how this has worked for you or what you would have liked, what could have been better. So we now have an additional opportunity to hear from you. I'm actually going to turn it over to Teresa Purrington to open it up to the public comment portion of our agenda. Teresa.
Okay, just like we've started at City Council, if you would like to speak for public comment, then raise your hand. You will be asked to unmute, and then you will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comments. Well, it looks like everybody might have gotten all their, oh, no, here we have one. Okay, so our first commenter is going to be Marshall James.
Hi, yeah, I'm not going to speak for the full 3 minutes. I just really want to say how grateful I am that this community feels so small and tight knit. I know we're not a tiny community, but I just love that this felt like a real forum. This felt like a community forum where I did get to bop around and talk to a lot of folks. I got to hear the perspectives of a lot of other folks. And it makes me just feel really good about the kind of community that we have here and the kind of community that we're all trying to build together. I think there's a lot of really humane, beautiful souls here that are just really looking to build a bright, green, safe, accepting, and loving community. And so I look forward to working with all of you in the coming years to make that happen. So thank you to everyone for doing this with your evening.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Jasna Jovanovic.
Hi. Can you?
Yes.
Am I there? I can't believe I have to follow that beautiful last dialogue there. So thank you for that. I agree. It's been a great evening for me. It's my first city council meeting, so thank you. My name is Jasna Jovanovic, and I'm a professor of psychology and child development at Cal Poly, and have been a resident of San Luis Obispo for 16 years. I'm here tonight representing more than now over 420 San Luis Obispo city residents who have signed a petition that I believe you received. It strongly urges you, our mayor and city council members, to adopt protection and maintenance of the city's open spaces, its natural reserves, as an explicit city major goal for 2021-23. As you're aware, preserving open spaces ranked as a very highest priority of city residents recently in the city surveys for the Measure G sales tax measure in 2018 and 2020. Supporters of this petition include hundreds of city residents, including those who have also served as city council members and mayors and as county supervisors representing our city. Signers of this petition include long-term city residents who have worked for decades to help preserve wildlife and their protected oak woodlands, scrub-covered slopes, and steep rocky cliffs in our city's open spaces. And there are also many supporters of this petition representing a new generation of residents who are just as committed to ensuring that we do not degrade or lose these protected natural reserves or open spaces. Supporters of this petition include a number of Cal Poly faculty whose scholarship directly relates to the importance of preserving our natural habitats, or who just care deeply, or both. As an example, one of the initial supporters of the petition is Dr. Clinton Francis, an associate professor of biological sciences. He and his colleagues from universities around the globe recently published an article in the scientific journal Nature on the impact of noise and light pollutants on bird behavior and health. I would also make one more comment in my role as someone who studies children and adolescents and who cares deeply about issues related to social justice. I've had so many parents comment to me that during this stressful time living with the fear and confinement of the pandemic, our city's natural reserves and open spaces have been a, quote, sanity saver. But these are not just anecdotes. There's overwhelming empirical evidence that shows that the level of exposure to natural environments beneficially impacts children's development and particularly their mental health. But while we know the tremendous physical and mental benefits to children who are exposed to natural settings, there's also abundant evidence of inherent environmental injustice in the distribution of access to natural spaces for racial and ethnic minorities and low-income people. So while the city is working to address the affordability of our city's housing, it will be important that we all work hard to preserve and maintain the city's natural reserves and open spaces that are critical to ensuring equitable living environments for all of our residents. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Astra.
Hi. So I would like to speak on just a few things. One, I support the change to ranked choice voting. I think that would be, it's a well-researched topic that I don't have the time to speak on, nor the research personally, but I think that would greatly affect the way that we choose our council members and vote in this county and city. I also support the idea of defunding the police. I think that's a really important step towards supporting our community, specifically people of color, and even more specifically, Black and Indigenous people of color in our city, because they we need to value them more than we have been. We also need to support LGBTQ plus folk as well in this county. We don't do a good job of that. I think that's all I have to say right now, but I have plenty of more thoughts that I have voiced in the info sessions and everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Molly Kern.
Hello, Mayor, council members, REACT commissioners, and city staff. I'm Molly Kern, and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the San Luis Obispo Chamber of Commerce and our nearly 1,400 member businesses. Thank you so much for hosting this. I think sort of the transition to virtual is really just one of the many changes that we've been so impressed to see the city make during this incredibly challenging time. The pandemic and its final effects on individuals and communities are really yet to be understood or realized, and we implore you to budget conservatively and to ensure that the city is positioned to support our community through continued closure and hopefully soon a reopening. Informed by the toll that the pandemic has taken, our top priorities focus on investments that unlock our collective ability to achieve the city's core values, which include sustainability, diversity, inclusivity, regionalism, and resilience, while at the same time rebuilding our economy and safeguarding the city's fiscal health. These values are really naturally intertwined, and we urge you to prioritize work programs that address the areas of overlap so that we're making the most efficient and economical progress. In addition to so much pain that the pandemic has brought to our community, we've seen how possible change, speed, and flexibility really are. During this incredibly disruptive and uncertain time, I know that I've been incredibly inspired by the innovation, creativity, and sheer grit that has been shown by so many of our businesses, community members, and the city itself as we've all worked to keep our heads above water and keep our community safe. The Chamber is encouraging you to take these lessons to heart as you evaluate city operations, facilities, and the quote unquote way things have always been done. You know, we want to imagine what your budget could look like if a portion of staff continued to work from home on a part or full-time basis. What processes can be digitized to increase speed and accountability? How existing land, buildings, parks, and streets can be rethought to provide the greatest community benefit, and ways that we can pilot these changes quickly and with minimal investment to allow for experimentation and ultimately a better result. So in closing, I just want to thank you so much for your consideration and for always inviting the input from the business community. It's more important than ever that we actively create the future that we're looking for, and that our success as a community really depends on furthering the sustainable solutions to support healthy economic growth and ensure our community into the future. We so look forward to participating with you as these conversations move forward, and want to thank you once again, especially your staff, who we know have put so much time and thought into making this as an inclusive and participatory process as possible under some really trying conditions. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bettina Swigger.
Hello, and thank you, everybody. My name is Bettina Swigger, and I am the CEO of Downtown SLO, which is the nonprofit organization that partners with the city of San Luis Obispo. And I really have enjoyed the forum tonight. So thank you to everybody for your hard work, and it's wonderful to see everybody on screen. I'd like to thank Council for including downtown vitality as a major city goal in the current 2-year budget plan. Because that goal was in place, our organization's partnership with the city has strengthened and grown. And as a result, we've really been able to more quickly adapt to the ever-changing business environment during the pandemic. We commend the work the city has engaged in, from rapid deployment of parklets to investing in new holiday celebrations. We are living through hard times, but there have been some bright spots. We would like to encourage you to again keep downtown vitality as a major city goal in the next 2-year budget cycle. Today, downtown San Luis Obispo is the economic, cultural, and social center of a dynamic region. Downtown is home to plentiful retail and dining establishments and an array of cultural and entertainment options. New hotels opened just prior to the pandemic, and they'll be ready to accept new visitors as we emerge from this terrible time, and we must have a vibrant downtown to welcome them. Our businesses are suffering, and the very nature of our work to bring people together has been radically disrupted. Going forward, we're going to have to work together to make downtown safe, attractive, and a welcoming environment while supporting local access and use of the public and private spaces therein. We were really pleased to see downtown vitality emerge as an area of focus from the Community Priorities Survey, and we understand that downtown vitality overlaps and intersects with a lot of the other areas that were in the different breakout rooms expressed tonight. Tonight, I'd like you to really think about downtown vitality through three lenses. One is economic resiliency. So we encourage the city to continue providing direct relief to local businesses through grant programs and creative initiatives like the Buy Local Bonus Program. We also encourage the city to continue to offer marketing support to local businesses and to spotlight downtown as an economic center for local spending and for visitor spending when the time comes. For diversity, equity, and inclusion, we invite the city to invest in programs and activities that benefit the complete range of people and cultures in our community and to support projects that are affordable and accessible to all. We also hope that arts and culture will be elevated as a way to celebrate our differences and our similarities. We encourage the city to continue the pandemic response and the innovative ways that you've chosen to do business into the next 2-year budget cycle, including permanent parklets for outdoor dining and investing in some more permanent improvements such as fixed tables and chairs for Mission Plaza that can allow the downtown dine out program to continue, and the implementation of enhanced cleaning services and the daily use of sidewalk sweepers in the downtown. It looks like I'm over my topic, but I do want to close just by saying that I have a list of priorities that is gathered by our more than 500 businesses that's been screened by our board of directors, and I will be sending that to City Council shortly. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Blakely.
Greetings and salutations. I guess the mind can only absorb what the seat can endure. So Madam Mayor and City Council members, thank you so much for having this meeting this evening to solicit opinions and input from the residents of the city. I know it's important for you setting your budgetary goals, and it's via the budget that the philosophical ideas that each of you have are expressed concretely. As I look over the results of the most recent survey, I'm reminded of the old adage that liars figure and figures lie. I've got a lot of questions about that survey, and instead of listing them all off and going them over right now, I've been trying to get a hold of Summer, so I might be able to talk to her about it to get a better idea of the survey so that I can understand its value. But I think that a lot of the data you received from the most recent survey is somewhat flawed and problematic. In 2019, Councilwoman Pence and Councilwoman Stewart worked on a number of surveys done in the city, and I think that those surveys had a broader base, and hopefully they'll be able to share some of their opinions on those surveys and the work that they did with the rest of the council. I believe that the preservation of open space and our natural reserves is a very important budget priority and goal. It's been strongly supported by the citizens of the city in surveys done in 2018 and 2020. So I think that there's a lot of public support for it. Given the amount of planned growth now occurring in the city, it becomes even more important that we provide this natural space for the overall health of our city. The open space enhances the physical beauty of our community and encourages the economic benefits from the tourists who flock here to enjoy our natural beauty. Open space sequesters tons of carbon, thereby helping to meet our climate action goals. And these open spaces and the passive recreational opportunities they provide should be a major component of our quality of life. Therefore, I'm encouraging your council to prioritize the maintenance and acquisition of open space in your future budget considerations, and maybe even talk about including an open space allocation in your developer fee program, as I believe the impacts from the growth taking place in the city also impact the open space. Once again, thanks for this wonderful opportunity and good luck to you as you continue your deliberations.
Thank you very much. And next speaker is Alejandro Bupara.
Hello, my name is Alejandro. I'm a resident of San Luis Obispo and a Cal Poly student, and I'm speaking as a community member and as a part of Abolitionist Action Central Coast SLO. As community members and stakeholders of San Luis Obispo, we deserve to have our voices heard and our basic needs met in order to have a good quality of life here. The city of San Luis Obispo should not be spending our budget dollars on militarized police forces at the same time as the nation goes through its reckoning with the racism and white supremacy that is a fundamental feature, not a flaw, of policing. We demand that the SLO City Council reject the proposed spending on a new police station, reduce police budget and headcount by 33% for next year, and reinvest our tax dollars in affirming and life-giving resources that will actually keep us safe. We don't need militarized police officers to feel safe. We need access to free or affordable housing, including rent, mortgage, and utility relief for all, especially during a COVID-19 pandemic when so many in our community cannot afford rent. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Garrett.
Hi, I'm Garrett. I'm a Cal Poly graduate, and I'm speaking as a community member and as part of Abolitionist Action Central Coast SLO. As community members and stakeholders of San Luis Obispo, we demand that the SLO City Council reject the proposed spending on a new police, reduce police budget and headcount by 33% for next year, and reinvest our money in affirming and life-giving resources for the community. We, as community members and stakeholders, deserve to have our voices heard and our basic needs met in order to have a good quality of life. Yeah, I would like to just see, especially a concrete ask and demand is no more sweeps on the houseless shelters by police people, and much reduced downtown bike pops. I don't think that's necessary to harass people, especially houseless people downtown. Thank you. Good night.
Our next speaker, thank you. Our next speaker is Thomas Gutierrez.
I thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate the forum this evening. I think it was a very effective way to communicate under the conditions that we're operating. I would like to just comment briefly about homelessness. And homelessness is obviously a complex problem and a humanitarian crisis that feeds into every aspect of the suite of topics that were discussed this evening in this forum, in the context of the budget in particular. And I would urge that we balance compassion with our unhoused neighbors with public safety, particularly fires, waste, trash, and violence. And these are not dangers to both the housed and unhoused neighbors in this context. For example, allowing improvised and unregulated camping in open spaces and city land is not, in my view, a compassionate solution to homelessness. I would advocate, for example, having a dedicated safe space for camping for our unhoused neighbors that would eliminate the improvised and unregulated camping that we see throughout the city and in the open spaces, particularly around the Bob Jones Trail this last fall and in other parts of town. I would advocate for more resources for the community action team, the officers and social workers involved with that crew, hiring more individuals to work with the community action team, particularly more social workers, and also more resources for rangers to monitor the open spaces for unregulated camping and open fires that are occurring throughout the city. And I would also advocate for a clearer central place to report issues of homelessness. As others have alluded to, maybe the police are not always the best tool to address homeless issues. And so social workers, rangers, the community action team, and those kind of interfaces, I think are all would be a better interagency coordination process would be helpful. And I think there's been some nod to that with the hiring of the new coordinator for these issues. I think that was alluded to earlier. But anyway, thank you for this time. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have one more speaker, Mila Bulovich-Labar.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting this virtual town hall meeting to allow all constituents' voices to be heard. My name is Mila Bujevich-Labar. In short, I'm a resident, a teacher, and someone who loves our town. I'm hoping that the following can be given priority the next few years. Protect our existing open space. Please continue to protect the open space for the purpose of preserving cherished views. I encourage everybody to sign Yasna Yovanovich's petition that was just made public to a lot of us this evening. We need to preserve and protect access to our existing recreation areas. I feel like more and more people of all socioeconomic backgrounds are cherishing the beauty in our great outdoors, especially during these months of COVID restrictions. Please continue to maintain existing hiking trails, provide appropriate signage and receptacles for litter and dog waste. Class 1 bike lanes. Over the years, given the new construction, I've long advocated for Class 1 bike lanes connecting new homes with both recreation areas, schools, and shopping. As a city council that cares immensely about climate action, I am hoping that you all continue to advocate for Class 1 bike lanes throughout our city, especially in areas where there's so much new residential construction. And I feel that this will contribute to the vitality, not just of downtown, but of all the pocket neighborhoods. Bus stop benches. The city has methodically encouraged ridership for everybody from students to seniors. However, in a majority of the bus stops, there's not a bench for potential passengers to wait on. In addition, many of these stops lack additional illumination. While some benches may have been omitted as a deterrent for members of our homeless population, it just seems that it's proper for people of all fitness levels to be able to wait for a bus sitting with proper illumination. Limit growth. The state mandates are not logical and are rapidly changing the character of our town. There's not enough potable water for more growth. There must be a cap for the next 2 years until the ramifications of existing construction is studied. I feel like our current residents are choking under the new development. Traffic infrastructure, as all of you know, the Prado Road overpass or interchange was supposed to be part of the traffic infrastructure for the next decade. This 4-lane truck highway, as it appears on the city planning documents, is indeed going to be a challenge to construct in accordance with Caltrans in the city, but it has been part of our infrastructure, so please construct this overpass or interchange now as promised. I appreciate this forum tonight, and I also appreciate the inclusion, weaving equity and inclusion into all of our new city mandates. As a teacher, I know that means so much to the next generation. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was our last speaker. Summer, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm just going to put up the next slide and turn it to Derek Johnson.
Great, thanks, Summer. I just want to really appreciate the council and the community for coming together tonight in these very unique times and for willing to take the plunge with us on this digital adventure and get input in a new, innovative way. Thank you to the center, to the entire city team, but we're not done. And so tonight's input will be included in an online community forum survey. We put the link up here on the slide. We'll drop it into the chat. We do strongly encourage you to register for city news, e-notifications. We have push notifications that go out to the community, and you can get emails sent to your personal email address to make sure you're keeping up to date with things that are going on in the city. So what are the next steps in terms of the city council? The results of both tonight and from the Open City Hall survey, which closes on January 25th, will be provided to the council in the first week in February. And then, of course, they have a council goal setting workshop on February 6th, and that will be virtually held as well. So thank you for spending time with us. Please be safe, wear a mask, social distance, and I look forward to the time I can all see you all in person. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our mayor.
Thank you so much, Derek. And thank you to everyone and the city team and Ryan in particular that brought this event to life. I know there's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes. I think it was maybe Marshall that shared first about really feeling like this was a real connection here tonight. And that was our hope. So I'm grateful to hear that that was the experience, at least for some of you. There's a lot of unprecedented challenges that we face, and no doubt the city is going to be a huge part of collaborating on solutions to those challenges, but we're not the only piece of the puzzle. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of, I know, nonprofit organizations on here tonight, and a lot of great community members that spoke a lot about how they're volunteering, whether it's working with unsheltered folks in the park or and all the other various ways that we need people to show up in this community. So thank you for all that you do, San Luis Obispo, and we're looking forward to continuing to hear your ideas about the San Luis Obispo that you'd like to see in the future. So thank you for your participation, and good night, everyone.